Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Melanie, and I'm one of the editors, and I feel very honored to be one of the editors on the Father's Rights Movement page. Tonight, I want to talk about something that's very near and dear to my heart. People often ask me, even on this page, sorry, I just got cut out internet connection. People often ask me, as a woman, why I'm so passionate about fathers' rights. And I ask them, why are they not? I mean, don't you care about your children's future? They always respond, my children's future, like they don't get it. And I say, yeah, your children's future. Don't you want your kids growing up with equality? People usually say, well, what do a father's rights have to do with equality? Well, let's think of it this way. I'm not going to get into a lecture because we all know already what the alarming statistics are in regard to the divorce rate. But let me ask you to think about this. Moms, grandmothers, aunts, sisters, women of the world. What if you have a son and he eventually gets married and he has children of his own? Everyone always responds, yay, that's wonderful. I get to become a grandmother, or I get to become an aunt. And the thing is, yeah, it's marvelous when something like that happens. But what if the unfortunate circumstances of your son's marriage or your brother's marriage doesn't work out and he becomes a statistic? Yes, a statistic. Did you know that in Canada and in the United States and pretty much all over the world, there's no automatic response in regards to divorce and legal shared parenting and what we like to call it 50-50 between mom and dad? Fathers don't have equality. If you think they do, you need to wake up. It's 2016 and gender bias is real. And yeah, I'm angry. It's time society gets their head out of the sand because equality and gender bias affects us all. Not just men, but affects women too. Think of it this way. What if a couple cannot put their personal indifferences aside and they can't co-parent? Well, I can tell you what happens. The result is that in general, it's fathers who are forced to go to court just so they can spend time with their children. How about this? What if the mother decides she's going to take your children, your grandchildren, your nieces and nephews away from you? Of course, everyone wants to say it's illegal to alienate a child from the other parent. But guess what? It happens all the time. And I want to be clear here. I am not talking about unfit, unwilling, incapable fathers. I'm talking about loving, supportive, capable men who are alienated from their children every day. Now, I understand, I know what happens to women as well, but statistically, it is a father's issue. And this is why we are fighting for equality. It can happen, and it happens all the time. Now, I know many fathers who write in to the Father's Rights Movement page, and this is one of the biggest themes, is that the mother has moved across the country and placed miles between them and the grandparents, grandchildren. Yes, everyone wants to jump on and say to me, it's legal to move out of the city with your children without the other parent's consent. But many parents do it, and they take their children without the other parent's consent or knowledge. Now think about this. How will that impact your son's relationship with his own children? Can you imagine? And I want you to all stop and think about this. Can you imagine? Sorry, I just got cut out. But I want to ask you all to take a moment and pause. Can you imagine going days, weeks, months, or even years without seeing your children or your grandchildren or your nieces or nephews? I sure can't. And unless your son makes a lot of money or you have a huge life savings set aside, the chances your son's going to be able to afford to go to court to get shared custody is unlikely. Custody cases and legal proceedings and getting to a trial is tedious, and it can take years. And fathers who are just trying to get shared custody often are resorted to every other weekend fathers. I can't even tell you how many fathers I know that have spent thousands and thousands of dollars just to have the basic human right of equality, and they're denied it every day. They typically end up with the standard of becoming an every other weekend parent. Does that sound right to you? I don't friggin' think so. If you don't believe me that this happens, just ask Thomas Fiddler, the founder and the president of the Father Rights Movement page, or the millions of fathers that are battling this custody fight every day just to be in their children's lives. You've probably all heard a friend or a friend's story, this ugly story of, high conflict divorce. But have you ever asked a single father how he feels about parental equality today or gender bias that he's experienced within the court system? Imagine how your son would feel, or your brother, or your uncle, if he had to endure spending every birthday and every Father's Day alone because his children, in a custody order, states that he only gets them 4 days a month. It's absolutely ludicrous. This is criminal and it's injustice. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about this because I want you all to think about something, especially grandparents right now raising, their sons that are adults that are about to get married maybe. But think about this. How well would it sit with you if that beautiful privilege, that opportunity that you have to bond with your grandchildren is suddenly reduced to 1 hour every other weekend? How'd you feel about that? What if the only time you're allowed to spend with your children and your grandchildren was over Christmas, Easter holidays, or a few measly weeks over the summer? Do you care now? You should. I'm going to give you a perfect and personal example. Before I met my husband, and I apologize, but I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to let you know how I viewed the world. Before I met my husband, I always held the belief that in cases of divorce, parents should automatically receive shared equal custody. But I never spoke about it. I never became actively, an activist about this because it was just my personal belief. I never thought much about it. Call me naive, but I just assumed when couples separate, they share and split everything equally, including time spent with their children in 2 different homes. Makes sense to me. Then I met my husband. Hand in hand, side by side together, we faced a series of grueling custody trials, JDRs, mediation over the course of 8 years. I don't even need to tell you all who've been through this financially and emotionally how draining that is. I was astonished how apparent gender bias remains to hold true within the judicial system. I just got cut out, my apologies. So I was saying I was astonished how relevant gender bias is today in the judicial system, and it's 2016. A father's love is no different than a mother's love. Love is love, yet fathers are fighting every day for the right to be an equal parent. Thankfully today, my husband has 50-50 custody of his daughter, my stepdaughter, but it was something he had to fight for. Now I get it. Now I understand. Now I care, and so should you. Now I want change, and you should want change. I want to make a difference so that no one else ever has to go through what my husband went through just for parental equality. I want to share this with all of you, and I hope you share this with everyone else, so that no father, no future siblings, no grandparent, no aunt or uncle or cousins have to fight for the basic human right that should be something we shouldn't have to fight for at all. Don't you believe all children deserve the right to be raised by both loving parents? If you're not fighting with us for parental equality, then you are supporting the war against children. Yes, I said war. If you are not fighting with us for parental equality, you are supporting the war against children. It's time to break that cycle of broken children and broken men. When you have 2 loving, supportive, capable, and willing parents, the norm should be parental equality in support of shared parenting 50-50. People never think about it until it happens to them. I care about my children's future and my grandchildren's future, and so should you. Please join us at the Fathers' Rights Movement on Facebook by supporting our efforts in creating awareness about gender bias, parental inequality, and in standing up for fathers, because your children's future depends on it. Fathers matter. Thank you.